Aloha and good afternoon. My name is Jürgen Steinmetz. I'm joining you here from Livestream.travel and Itobo News in Honolulu, Hawaii. And we're celebrating the launch of the World Tourism Network. It's a month of different interesting events from all over the world with our stakeholders, with our members, and we're excited. Actually, tomorrow, for those that are joining us live now, tomorrow we have our big grand opening launch event where you find out more about what World Tourism Network is all about. And the following day, we're going to have our keynote panel with the Minister of Tourism and Culture from Bahrain, who's also trying to run, or she's running, not trying to run, but she's running for Secretary General for the United Nations World Tourism Organization. And you will also meet many of our friends who are involved, like Dr. Taleb Rifai, Peter Talo, we have Louis Damour from Peace to Tourism, and several others on this upcoming panel. So make sure you're joining this and many other events. You'll find them on WTN.travel. Just simply click on the blue banner on top for our launch events, or you find it very easy in the menu, click on the red launch event link, and you will go to the page and find all the upcoming events, and you can also listen to the archive. We had about 12 events already, and you can see the videos and listen to it. Well, without further ado, I wanted to introduce and welcome Peter Byrne. Peter is joining us from Mafia Island in Tanzania. And he's not with the Mafia, but there is a hotel group, I believe, you can explain it better, in Tanzania. But even more important, Peter has worked endlessly on an approach on how to continue tourism in this current environment with COVID. And he's considered by many also in the African Tourism Board as a leader in this field. And I'm very happy that he took the time to join us and that he's also part of our board at World Tourism Network. Welcome, Peter.
Thank you, Jürgen, and good morning to all viewers and listeners. The issue that I really wanted to bring up today was to do with the sustainability side of our industry. In Mafia Island, we are in the process of forming an association. We're not a big industry, we're a tiny industry there. The island is about 800 square kilometers. We are 150 kilometers south of Zanzibar, which is the big sister island. And of course, I think almost everybody in the world has heard of Zanzibar. In 2019, Zanzibar received somewhere between 550 and 600,000 people, if you take into account the internal domestic tourism and visiting friends and relatives, because we have strong ties with countries like Yemen and Oman. Now, this was an enormous impact because the growth over the last few years has been incredibly strong, and a large number of new hotels, large and small and medium, came online. So we had this enormous surge. That, of course, has gone. But in the last month, contracts were made with Russians, Ukrainians, and Polish travelers, and we're receiving somewhere between 500 and 1,000 people a day on Zanzibar, and they're staying an average of a week. It's very, very cheap tourism, but we had three issues piling one on top of the other. First of all, we don't have the services and the capacity to handle the output of waste, which is approximately 1.5 kilo of, let's say, fruit waste, fish waste, all kinds of solid waste as well, coming out per bed, per night. On top of that, we have a large resident population. So along the coastline, you'll have villages interspersed with tracts of hotels side by side. Almost the entire coast of the eastern and southern and northern sides of the island are now fully populated with structures. So we have a lack of services. We have an attitude problem because the attitude to handling waste has traditionally been to leave it on the beach and let the tide take it away, or throw it in the bush and let the environment worry about it. Now, on top of that, if you're writing an algorithm, you can go square, square with the focus on recovery. So initially, let's say up to about 2 months ago, we heard a great deal about sustainability and green is the way to go and green is the way we must go. And the pandemic has given us an opportunity to take a breather and do that. Not so easy, because now we've got this terrific focus on recovery. And in the last 2 months, I've noticed in the, let's call it the tourism press, a complete decline in this focus on the sustainability, the greenness of the industry. Yes, the focus is there where people are seeking good, clean, natural places. You will remember, Jürgen, the very good presentation by the lady from Jordan, talking about the healthy, clean, salty air kind of focus. And we are a beneficiary of that trend here in Mafia because of the design of our hotels. They're small, they're bungalows separated by gardens and so on and so forth. So we have we're ticking all the boxes. But as an infant organization trying to prepare, not for a vast increase in the industry, but just to handle the output of wastes and dealing with plastics, dealing with solid waste on a small island, we're asking the question, do people care? And on top of that, do governments care? Because there's a terrific focus on numbers and revenues, especially tax revenues. I had invited a number of people, including the Palau Conservation Society, who've had experience with both mass tourism from China, and now they've turned their back on that and gone to the sustainability side. I was hoping Professor Jeffrey Lipman or somebody from SunX could join us, and I've invited some local leaders, Sibylle Riedmuller and Dr. Jean de Villiers, in the sustainable tourism community in Tanzania. I don't know whether they might come on later or what might happen. But my question is, we've had this great flurry, this great talk originally about, we've got to go greener. Everybody wants greener. But I don't see the evidence. I don't see it on the ground. And I think it's been overtaken by a certain amount of desperation to get our industries back up and running. And believe me, I mean, we are bearing the brunt of it too. We've had a trickle of people from all over the world, Switzerland, some from the US, some expatriates working in our country here on various companies, or actually we have a branch here in Arusha of the World Court for the Rwanda cases. So they've been down to visit us, which was great. But I'm talking now about the models that we have, the all-inclusive big hotel models, the government emphasis on numbers and recovery, the airline emphasis on recovery, get people traveling, get people moving. What's happened to the sustainability focus? How can we keep this going? How can we make governments and travelers care? And I wanted to put this out into the community to get some feedback on not just the rush to get back to what we had, because maybe what we had was just plain too much. And we were certainly not coping with it in some of our destinations, like here in East Africa, because we don't have the measures, the policies, the strategies, the tax incentives, the green finance. We don't have a single green financing tool. working at the moment in Tanzania, either for construction or for operations. So the big question, you know, where do we go to during this recovery phase, and how do we implement the movement that we I think are all or should be part of? How do we get this on the ground? Lefteris, I wanted to ask you, as head of a grouping of hotels and so on, how much importance is placed by people booking hotels on our greenness, shall we call it, or our adherence to sustainability policies and activities?
Well, first of all, thanks for asking, Peter. I had the luck to be in Zanzibar myself. I've been in Tanzania several times, uh, from Kilimanjaro down to, of course, Moshi, Arusha, down to Dar es Salaam, and down to Zanzibar. I've never been to Mafia. I've been in Zanzibar, I think, what, a year ago or 1.5 years ago. Sustainability and today in today's world, as well as to be green, it's something that everybody's looking for. Right now, what I've seen when I was there, okay, Zanzibar has the ups and downs. The whole thing is that you see both worlds there. You see, unfortunately, fact of life, the poverty which is there, but also you see amazing beaches, amazing facilities that you managed to build there. I've never been to Mafia, but I don't know if you could, since this video will be shown, you have an amazing video on one of the hotels, the Kinasi, as well as for Mafia Island, which I suggest and I hope that you will show. Otherwise, I would show it myself, because you do a lot for your island. I know you've been trying for many years. Because we are professional as well, I think, as far as I understand, you've done a lot of architectural work in both Kenya, Tanzania, and Zanzibar. Am I correct, Peter?
Well, I'm not an architect, but yes, I mean, building work. Yeah.
Building. And I know that you've tried your best to have something different, and that's why you ended up on Mafia Island, because it's one of the cleanest and beautiful islands in the region. Now, today in today's world, hello, Cuthbert, how are you?
I'm very well. How are you?
Good.
Morning, morning, you guys. Good morning. How are you, colleagues? My apologies.
Thanks for joining us.
In today's world, our industry needs more of that. And people all over the world, they are looking for something like that. They cannot find these jewels, let me call them, which you try to do on Mafia. And unfortunately, it's not even known. As Jürgen said, it's not part of Mafia. It's the Mafia Island. I didn't know Mafia Island myself until last year, when I spoke with you, actually. And then I said, okay, let's go for it. When I saw what Mafia Island is, I said it needs more marketing, more something to bring it out. But how do you do that? What is different than others? Maybe what you have is exactly what you're talking about today. What you have is that purity, that greenery that I see on the videos, those clean beaches, those crystal waters, that what you have there. Because I'm looking at the same time, I'm watching your video on the other screen. And that is something that I think you should market yourself as an island and as hotel, and to bring it out there. We are doing our best to do that for most of Africa, because Africa is still an undiscovered area for most of people. And they don't understand what Africa is. And we are doing our best for that. Now, what you're trying to do with the green, with the sustainability, with all that, it's, I can say, I can only congratulate you for what you're doing. And that is what people need. And it is the future. In my opinion, it is the future. So you need to do more. Yes, I know Tanzania didn't invest a lot in that, but I believe it will come, and it should come. It's one of the treasures that you have, and you need to do it.
Thank you. Yes, I'm lobbying a great deal with our ministry and our tourism board about really bringing into to the mainstream incentives and directives. I'd like to avoid legislation, because I think this is exactly what I'm talking about. How to incentivize people to adopt better strategies. I've got a friend who's running his Land Rovers now on ethyl alcohol, which is a byproduct of the production of carbon dioxide itself from the molasses out of a sugar factory in Arusha. So it can be done. He's fitted electronic systems that he bought in South Africa, and he's running basically clean Land Rovers. But for the rest of the industry, it's giant, 4.5 liter engines plowing through the countryside, the way we've done it, for 20, 30, 40 years of tourism. And we don't have any pressure, let's call it, from the market or on our operators to adopt greener standards. There's a lot of greenwashing out there. You can get all kinds of stamps and labels, but the reality is we're not changing fast enough to cope with what we already had to deal with. We're seeing this on Mafia as the society does become more, well, I can say wealthier, I suppose, but Tanzania is a manufacturing economy as well. So we have a great number of soft drink companies, for example, producing these small shot soft drinks in throwaway plastic bottles. We have everything in plastic. You think of it, everything from a toilet roll to a toothpick comes wrapped in plastic. That is just discarded in the countryside because we don't have a system yet on Mafia. This is what we want, some lessons. We want some help with this, and we've applied to SunX to get some support to join their approach, because I think it's it's one of the ideal approaches. So with a new council now coming in after our elections here, we have a new group of young minds, a lot of young minds on the council who are thinking very much along these lines, and we're trying to learn from others and put in place from the ground up, from the children up, school children upwards, collection of plastic, collection of this, collection of old cloth, just old cloth. You go into to dive, and you will find pieces of old cloth or old jeans or whatever, on the bottom of the bay. So we're trying to change this.
I know you're trying, Peter, and I tell you the truth, I've seen it. Again, I say it in Zanzibar, when I was staying at the hotel nearby the exhibition center, and there every afternoon I could see schools. I don't know what they were learning. Schools coming over at the hotel, going through the beach and collecting plastic bottles thrown by the fishing boats or whatever. And I saw them collecting everything, and I was impressed by it. Even with what is going on in the area, you're trying, but all these are done by individual people. All these are done by individual people like you.
Correct. Correct.
And that is something that has to be recorded and given to the governments in different countries, not only in Mafia Island, not only in Zanzibar, not only in Tanzania, but it's something that we need to educate even our own governments, to tell them this is what we need for our own future, because our future is dead without doing those things, without having this green worldwide. And that is something, if it starts from Africa, it's even better, because it's I can say it's unexpected from the rest of the world, and that would be a lesson to be given to others. So I applaud you for that.
And I think, Cuthbert, perhaps there would be another good initiative, I think, for African Tourism Board to think about bringing this forward as a project, isn't it? I think you're muted. There we go.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. No, thank you so much, Jürgen, and thank you so much, colleagues. Yes, it's a great initiative, as Lefteris has indicated, that, well, it starts with individuals, and that needs to be accelerated to our authorities, the government, who also needs to have a buy-in. But we cannot wait for the government, as we all know that the policies and legislations and the red tapes that go with it. And as African Tourism Board, I think it should, it's a great initiative that then needs to be implemented and rolled across. If we could, Peter Lefteris and Stefan is there, Jürgen is there, if we could start it ourselves and roll it out so that as we activate it in various member states, we will have a buy-in from all interested parties. It starts with one person to stand up and say, look, this is the right thing to do, because it's definitely destroying our environment. Also, we're experiencing the same problem in South Africa. I mean, especially now it's during the festive season, and people are flocking to the beaches. And thereafter, after 2 days, you need to have a massive cleanup of these plastics and so forth. And I'm surprised that Tanzania, I remember when I went there at the airport, we could not be allowed to carry plastics. Yes. They were confiscated at the airport. I thought that policy still stands within the whole country.
They stopped last year, I think 2 years ago. Tanzania has prohibited any kind of plastic bags and all that. And that was an amazing, it was heard all over the world that no plastic bags in Tanzania. Also, I was impressed when I was in Kenya, and I saw at the same time some one of the big hotels having on the roof, keeping all the wastewater in order to make it. I mean, I've seen
to recycle.
I've seen that in the Boma Hotel. I'm sorry for saying names in Nairobi, but at the same time, when I was in Durban, in South Africa, and I was on the beach, I couldn't go on the beach. I felt it was so dirty. Things need to happen in Africa. You've got an amazing continent, and things need to happen because you have the opportunity, and the future is all yours. But you need to be careful, and you need to care for it now in order to get the benefits later.
No, that's true. And
even if you look beyond Africa, I can tell you here in Hawaii, plastic is banned pretty much. And I think in another year, plastic is completely banned. We're not allowed to have even plastic dishes. So guys like McDonald's are going crazy.
Wow.
Because they have
in New York as well.
And other things. Now, this all may have come to a halt with COVID, because We don't know yet.
That's my point.
But before COVID, it was the law. And actually, when we go to a supermarket here and want to have a bag, we have to pay 15 cents. It's not free.
Yes.
And it's not plastic, it's paper.
Oh, yeah.
Right. Yeah.
So you
very much in New York as well. It's been banned in New York, and you do have to pay for the paper bags.
That's brilliant.
Yeah.
That's a step towards, you know, a much greener, much cleaner environment. In the meantime, the whole thing is this is going around the world, and to tell you the truth, the first country I remember that banned it was Tanzania. It was very big all over the world, and I was so proud of it. But you still lack of a lot of things, Peter. But I think you better. We interrupted you a lot. We started.
No, this is good. No, the other thing that I hadn't mentioned with regard to the influx of tourists we're having from Russia and Ukraine and all the rest of it. We all know about price compression in the industry. So people that were having 5-star rates have dropped their rates to maybe 3.5, 4-star kind of price levels pre-corona, et cetera, et cetera. So we have this price compression also affecting the industry, and that I think is going to be there for quite a while. And I think this is also having an effect on whether or not there's capacity. People used to be happy to devote some of their profits or extra revenues to which would then become tax deductible, of course, if you spent it on labor and so on to collect plastics. We are focusing on the children because I think it's very difficult to change adult attitudes in Africa towards rubbish, which Cuthbert is highlighting by talking about what goes on in South Africa. As I've traveled a lot in South Africa because I had a daughter at high school there, I do understand what he's saying, but it goes across pretty much all African countries because the services and the service levels are not there. But it's also the attitude problem. Like, throw it away, put it in the water. You will see it here on Zanzibar. The people actually put their rubbish at night, possibly so that nobody sees them, but they do it anyway. And they know exactly where the tide will be, the high tide at night, and tomorrow morning it will be gone. But it just gets shoved down to the next beach. I actually have one of my neighbors doing that to me in Mafia, but he's small, so we cope with it, and we publicize it. We name and shame, but so there's been some improvement. You can do that in a small environment. We were talking about the rubbish thing, Cuthbert, and of course I had in my mind with Left Terrace there from the UK, the Brighton Beach after the holiday on during the summer. Left Terrace, you remember the famous pictures? I don't know what the council collected, 16 tons, but why should the council collect it? Take your rubbish home, you know. The attitude.
Let me say something here, and then because then I will forget it. First of all, since we are alone here, that's why I'm taking the liberty. First of all, yes, COVID did affect everybody in a bad way, but it did change a little bit what is going on, and beaches are cleaner, beaches are greener. All of us, all the hoteliers. I mean, I've got 150 hotels and more in Africa I work with. They're all part of my hotels right now, and they're all getting more. They're getting the awareness of, hey, it did help. Hey, it is cleaner. Hey, let's keep it this way. Maybe that's the message we should go on. Since we've done it in the last 6 months, due to COVID, a bad thing, something good came out of it. On the other hand, something you said, Peter, which I need to address, is the prices. You talked about hoteliers dropping their prices 5-star to 3-star levels and all that. I spoke with all my hotels, all of them. And I told them all, do not change your pricing policy. Yes, you can put last minute rates. Yes, you can put a promotion. Don't drop your prices because you're the ones that will suffer later. If you drop your prices, you drop your service. If you drop your service, you get different kind of segments of the market coming to your hotel, the backpackers. But you don't want to bring the backpackers in your hotels all the time. That belongs to different kind of hotels. So play the right cards, and at least most of my hotels heard what I said, and they played it right. They played it with the last minute rates, the COVID rates, or whatever rates. We saw what is the KPIs in order to attract those clients, if there are clients. What's the use of dropping your rates if there are no clients coming anyway? You're destroying yourself for your own future. Sorry for interrupting again.
No. After if I can say something, you're so absolutely right. I mean, I dealt with a similar situation back in Asia when I worked with Indonesia, and Indonesia had the problem with 2 terrorist attacks in Bali. And then at the same time, that's actually when I met Jeffrey Lipman the first time, when he appointed us to do help him with the tsunami crisis in Southeast Asia. And these type of crises were handled very differently from Indonesia and Thailand, for example. Indonesia did drop the prices. You had hotels, you had 3-star hotels, mostly family owned, that usually charge maybe $60 a night, competing with the Sheraton and the 5-star hotels that now also charge $60 a night. The Sheraton can survive this, but the small and medium hotels cannot survive it. So a lot of these hotels went bankrupt, a lot of families and small businesses.
But we see this now. We see this today, Jürgen. I've seen hotels. I am originally from Cyprus. You know how many hotels in Cyprus have either became offices or they closed down? How many are for sale? I'm talking about a big touristic island. But imagine what are the devastations around the globe if I say that in a very small island.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. And if you look at Penang, not Penang, at Pattaya or Phuket in Thailand during the tsunami crisis, Thailand did not really drop the prices, maybe 10%, nothing big. And they used the money to team up with Thai Airways to bring journalists in, to bring travel agents in, to have tour operators look at niche markets and other opportunities. And they traveled completely for free. But the prices weren't dropped. And, history talks, because we know how long it took Thailand to get out of the crisis. No time compared to Indonesia out of these 2 crises. It took forever.
Yep. I agree.
Yeah. No, I think also, just to add on what Jürgen has indicated, as an interim measure, I think it's prudent, especially when you look at the African segment market, where you are trying to accommodate your domestic tourism. So there should be a component of affordability to your local community. So there might be a need of a sort of an adjustment in terms of your rate so that you accommodate your domestic and also your intra-Africa travel.
I agree with you, Cuthbert. What happened, I will bring an example of Kenya. Kenya, we have done, we have 40 properties in Kenya. I advise them all not to drop their prices, but we created domestic rates.
Oh yeah.
Where we put on the websites of the hotels the domestic rates with an IP. Therefore, only the Kenyans could see the domestic rates, or they had to provide a passport or whatever in order to get the domestic market moving. And we managed to do it. I have hotels that, believe it or not, they were not affected at all. They were working 80% occupancy during the COVID with the domestic market. And that is amazing.
Lefteris, you're quite right about that. In Florida, that's what they're doing at the moment with the Floridians. They've got to show the ID there and they will get the local discount.
Exactly. They needed to find a way, and we did it there. But there are markets that do not have the domestic. Like in Kenya, 50% was always domestic. So we knew that it wouldn't suffer. But Tanzania, they don't have the domestic market. And we know that. Am I correct, Peter?
Absolutely
that's
correct.
That's a normal thing. We have it here in Hawaii, even without COVID. We call it kama aina rates, local rates. So if you have a Hawaii driver's license and you want to stay in a hotel, the rates are usually 50, 60, 70% off. You don't pay resort fees, or you go on an attraction, you get it for half price. Why would anyone, like from the other side of the island, go 40 miles to stay in a hotel and pay the same rates? And it's probably better to stay home. And, and this is an encouragement. And you have the same in Indonesia as well. You have the local rates and you have the regular rates. I think, and here it goes even further. You have two rates in the supermarket. You know, if you get a local card, you pay literally half price for most items in the supermarket.
Really? Oh my God. I've never heard of that one. I've never heard of that.
It's still expensive. It's still expensive, but I mean, tourists take it. Tourists stay for a few days. They come to spend money wherever they go, right? They expect to spend money. So if you have no accommodation for local people to be able to spend regular money without paying tourist prices, I mean, everyone would be on welfare eventually, you know?
Jürgen, can I just come in here?
We got away from the topic from Peter.
Yes, I'm sorry.
No, it's quite all right, because they're wound in. This is a circular economy, and you know, the cheaper you go, the less you've got to deal with the sustainability crisis, and it is a crisis. So let me just talk about the expectation on price, because the latest research from TripAdvisor and Booking.com is that across the board, their people are expecting into the future lower prices. Now, they don't explain how the research was done and why. But what I'm inferring from it is that when travelers see that it is possible for hotels to survive with lower rates, there's going to be a great deal of pressure on the accommodation industry to maintain these lower prices to survive. And so I think we're looking at a period of at least 2 years with that kind of pressure, plus the hotels that will have temporarily shut, and there are some here even on Zanzibar, coming back into the market slowly when they see the opportunity to do so. So the price pressure is going to remain one way or another.
The prices there, Peter, unfortunately, due to what started, yes, it will remain, but not for all. The ones that maintained it, I insist there, are the ones that will be the winners, because they will provide the service and they will have their standards. If you don't have 100% and you've got 60% with the high prices, you even save costs and you still make the same money. So I strongly believe that, yes, every channel, and we know that, every Booking.com, every Expedia, everybody will be pushing to give, because they need it more than you. They need to make money. They need to pay their staff. Booking.com fired 25% of their staff. Expedia fired another 20, and they're expecting in February to fire another 15% of the staff. We know that. I hired people that left from Booking and Expedia myself because of what is going on in Africa. So yes, they need the money to survive, and that is why they will be pushing, because there is only one cake, and they need piece of the cake, and the bigger piece of the cake they get, the more money they will make. Of course they will push. It's up to us in the industry, the hoteliers, to make sure that we get paid what we provide. Don't overdo it, but don't kill yourself. You will close.
Well, I think with the way we're all going, we're just going to kill ourselves with effort. I can tell you the effort, the cost benefit of the business we're getting to the effort input. I look in the mirror in the morning and I say, another day of COVID aging. Anyway, I want to ask Cuthbert and Jürgen, who I think have far more experience than we do across other countries and so on. Is there a country that comes to mind that has been very forward in developing policies to incentivize the industry, both the construction industry, but also the hotel industry? I mean, I've just finished the EDGE building program and waiting to do the exam. Wonderful system, absolutely wonderful. I'm going to promote it here. UNWTO IFC EDGE building, fantastic for the tourist and specifically for tourism, community facilities, educational facilities, and shopping malls and things like that. And the thing that struck me most of all is that many of the things you can do to be much, much greener are so logical and simple. They may cost a little bit more in, let's say, the fit out of your hotel with special taps and special showers and all the rest of it. My worry when I asked to do this presentation was some of the things we talk about as luxury now, like showers that are free flowing, hot water as much as you can use, all these kind of things have become accidentally synonymous with luxury or with higher standards, if you like. I think we're all old enough to realize that what used to be 5-star is now 4-star or even 3.5 in some of the big the big chains. What was once considered luxury is no longer luxury, and it's standard, and that is what's happened to the industry. So what I'm looking for is a model country or a model government that has really put in place incentives like green financing, tax incentives, let's say, and for example, here in Tanzania, we don't have the requirement like we have in Australia, where on all of your electrical instruments, like my fridge here and air conditioners, you must put the energy rating. It must be on stickers on the machinery so that you can make the choice. So I'm asking you, are you aware of a country that is really pushing the boundaries in moving legislatively with incentives, with the banks to provide the green financing and so on, to move the process?
Well, I mean, if I can, again, to my home territory, Hawaii is leading in the United States exactly with this, with tax incentives, not only for the hotel industry. I don't know maybe enough about the hotel industry, but if I wanted to convert into renewable energy, my home, get different type of electricity. If I wanted to put solar in my house, basically it's almost free. And some people say you can even make money on it. It's the same with electric cars. And so we've been quite forward with these type of incentives. Actually, when you have an electric car, you no longer have to pay parking meters. You can park anywhere. And in most places, you can actually charge your car. So I think we kind of are an example, and how this now continues with COVID, who knows, because we need money. Before we didn't need money. Now, if you look at Europe, Germany, for example, has many incentives. The European Union, other areas in the world, including the United States, could only dream of. And without now being able to, on the spot, to give you examples. Maybe what we could bring into such a discussion, and that's why I like these discussions, because what we're trying to do at WTN is have interest groups. And we have one interest group, what Jeffrey said he would meet with on his climate friendly initiative, where this could possibly fit in. And we had a speaker not too long ago, the video is archived on WTN travel. She was an Iranian American lady. Actually, she lives in Hawaii. I didn't even know she was in Hawaii to started talking. And she's dealing exactly with this on a global scale. So we can probably bring her into such a discussion. And
yeah, I'll be joining Jeffrey's program. I've signed up for that one. Looking forward to it.
Yeah, and that's what I'm hoping with WTN. We can bring these different interests together. And, I'm hoping the same for African Tourism Board to fit, somehow in this concept, and maybe have a similar concept within the ATB. And then with WTN, this all comes together on a global scale. And that was, I think, the discussion Cuthbert and I had a number of times. And but what you're saying is so absolutely important. Not only economically, it's also important. You're destroying your tourism infrastructure in not addressing these issues effectively.
Yeah, well, I suggest that to Cuthbert, that we think about an interest group like this. The other thing that has come out of the pandemic, of course, and this move to sustainability makes this essential, is that every destination, no matter how small, and I call a destination an individual thing, like perhaps a national park, a single national park with its hoteliers inside the national park, with the organization itself, and with the government institutions, need to form destination management organization. This has become completely clear to me.
Right.
And that is where the activity begins. We can mentor others, we can mentor schools, for example. Each one of us takes on a village or a school or an area or whatever. Yes, it's an additional burden, but by doing that, you also can develop some common policies, and we're not all working in different directions with different arrangements. But Cuthbert, for us in Africa, I think we really need to push this. I'm pushing it as hard as I can here with my ministry and with my tourism board. So far, I haven't made much traction because we've been in the middle of an election and all kinds of changes and all the rest of it. So I'm hoping, 2021 is going to be our year of light and progress, and we will create much more this private-public participatory approach, which the DMO is the founding stone. It's the cornerstone, because if you can work together at a district level or a local level, it just flows back up the line to the regional level and to the national level. Why should policies on tourism emerge from the top? Why can't they emerge from the bottom, where we know what exists down there? So I finished a series of 3 papers that I have submitted to our director of tourism here, where I'm moving this whole story that we're talking about today. But the DMO experience has become so prominent in the last 6 months as a tool that we all need, that I think it's almost got to be a government policy that any location has to have a DMO, you don't have to go big. You start off with tiny little steps. The Kaizen, the Japanese Kaizen rule, or actually it's an American system from the Second World War. But little steps, baby steps. Start with one thing and move up the line. So with that, I think that and the green embedding the green movement in government policies and so on, I would like I hope that we can work on in the coming year under the ATB, which I'm also a member of.
Yeah, I think I totally agree with you, Peter, when you said the problem we have is the attitude of people, especially within our government. It's you need to have a drive and the will and the right attitude. I would say the continent of Africa is the only continent that can harvest so much sunlight that will make it easier to move towards the green environment. I would take a case study of Rwanda. Rwanda, they have done so much within a very short space of time. And I have always said that when these guys gather, if they could learn from one another, in terms of incentivizing their infrastructure development, they have done quite a lot. And they are still doing a lot. And the problem we have with Africa, we don't have objective and progressive-minded leadership. So if we could all put our resolves together towards one objective, when we say our target is to move towards the green environment, all of us, if we could have that energy of driving towards that agenda. So yes, it can be done. Rwanda has done it. Rwanda is doing it. They haven't reached the pinpoint, but at least they've initiated programs of incentivizing their infrastructure development, and they are especially within the tourism sector and the economic sector at the same time. So it needs a right attitude and the will and the drive. So as African Tourism Board, I would believe that if we start small, let's implement. And remember, some of the guys, they believe they're Thomases who believe in seeing things happening. They will join the wealth wagon while we are in motion. Let's start with small things. Let's build it from there.
Thank you, and I couldn't agree. I couldn't agree more. I think, though, there's also a lack of commitment in the private sector. You know, it's kind of business as usual, and one of the issues we have in the industry, of course, is competition. So the capitalist model demands that I have a bigger buffet than Lefteris does in his hotel, right? So the longer buffet or the hottest curry or whatever it happens to be, and that's why we started the discussion about how do we get people to care and how do we get governments to care. We are all aware that something like 30% of the food we're producing in the industry goes to waste, and that is a disgrace, of course. It doesn't have to be like that, of course, and we hope that as we move forward, people will become much more aware of that, and I think the leadership in this, you know, we look at Brighton Beach, and that's the English community. When I was growing up in Australia and at high school in the 1970s, we had to launch a program called Don't Rubbish Australia. The slang in Australia about rubbish is when you rubbish somebody, is you're putting them down. So we use this slang word, don't rubbish Australia, don't put down Australia. It was enormously successful. It took a long time. And before we started, it was typical for people to go on a picnic somewhere and just dump everything after the picnic. You know, just leave it there. Or if there was a bin, and our infrastructure wasn't so good for that either, if there was a bin, it would be stuffed full and overflowing. And then that brought many of our wild animals and all that sort of thing, because Australia's got many of these marsupials and everything everywhere. So that became a real problem in our particular environment. But you can do it with a program called Don't Rubbish Australia. And it became, I mean, now you can go on any beach on the Gold Coast in Australia or wherever. It is pristine, absolutely pristine. You can't believe it. And because people, it's very rare for people just to leave their rubbish everywhere. And of course, the facilities are everywhere to collect. and deposit this rubbish. So you've got to have the facilities too. So the government has to come to the party. But many of these facilities can also be put in place by the hotels. And I've been arguing for years, for example, here in Zanzibar, that the hotels have a vested interest in mentoring and partnering with the villagers. They get all their rubbish removed. Why not partner and mentor with the village? Yes, it's going to increase costs and so on and so forth. But by the time you take off the taxes and so on that you can discount off your costs and so on, at least you're starting the process that later on, hopefully, the government will assume, since it's making the money out of the industry. Unfortunately, it's fairly typical, Cuthbert, I think you'll agree, that across Africa, revenues from tourism are not plowed back into the industry and the necessary infrastructure. So it's a complete circular problem, and I think we have to attack it on that direction.
Can I say something here? Cuthbert, I wanted to say this, and don't take me wrong. What I see in Africa, I've been coming to Africa for a long time. What I see in Africa is, and I see it in all Africa, not only in South Africa, there is a lot of talking and not a lot of doing.
Oh, yes.
And that can change by you. By you, you are the chairperson of the African Tourism Board. Just put someone or in a committee for the green of Africa, because that is something that needs to be done. It will be done eventually. If it's not with you, it will be with someone else. Well, put a committee, get results, and then put them out and put them to the government and get a budget for it. I'm an outsider. I love Africa. I am an outsider still. I am in the UK. I've got my interest in Africa. I love Africa, and I've shown it. And I'm educating hoteliers, or I'm educating people how to play the game. But they do need the support, and the support cannot come alone by just the private sector. So, in my opinion, things need to happen and not just talking. And it's not you. I'm not talking about you. I'm talking about in general right now.
Oh, yeah.
But someone needs to take the first step. And you are the head of it there.
Wow.
Sorry, I'm putting now.
Yeah, look, my belief and my approach is an inclusive approach. You have invested so much interest in Africa. So you are part of Africa. You are part of the problems of Africa. We appreciate that. I totally agree with you that, look, we need, I'm sure Yeken is listening, and Peter as well, with your commitment. We need to formulate strategies on how do we need to move forward. Like we are saying that it has to start with us. And then when we implement these strategies, then we are able to involve, the policymakers, because we need their buy-in. A committee is necessary who will drive the Green Africa project so that we achieve. Peter, that's really, we are going to put you into task in making sure that let's drive this agenda.
Cuthbert, do you have a Green Africa project right now?
No.
No, I'm just asking. Is there anything in the African Tourism Board regarding a committee or a project about green? Is there anything right now?
No, we do have committees set up, but not specifically on the green. That's why I'm saying we need to get a vehicle that will, focus on the green environment. So I think, Peter, we need to work on that.
How difficult is it for you to do it? Because you are the example of the whole Africa. You start from South Africa, you say, we are creating this project, Green Africa. Like, some years back, I remember I was going to ATM to buy amazing Singapore, amazing Singapore, amazing Singapore, all the years, amazing Singapore. Why don't you make it Green Africa? You start it, then it will follow. Everybody will follow.
Yes.
It's my opinion, but the whole thing, sorry, I'm not the one to advise. I'm just a humble businessman. What I'm saying is, you can start something like this. You can start a project saying Green Africa, put a committee, but put them to work in order to bring out something of the results and put some initiatives out. I don't know. Sorry.
No, that's brilliant.
I shouldn't be interrupting.
No, that's great. That's brilliant. I really appreciate that insight. I think, Peter, I'm going to put you into task. Again, we are definitely going to implement that.
Yeah, no, it's definitely.
I'm fully in support. One thing, I know we're running out of time, Jürgen. I think one thing that I want to point out the distinction between politicians and bureaucrats. Politicians come and go. Bureaucrats tend to stay. They may be moved from one ministry to another, as we have just had, for example, a change in our Minister of Tourism, both minister in Zanzibar and on the mainland. Bureaucrats tend to stay in the government, and so it's much more important for us to engage with bureaucrats, Cuthbert. If we're going to set this up and we're going to do it, and I'm with you all the way on this, let's do it by bringing in as many bureaucrats as we can and destination management organizations. And I don't mean by a DMO a marketing board. Yes, they're welcome to join, but a DMO brings together the private and the public sectors at the lowest level, and that's where we have to go. So I remind people all the time that if you lean on politicians, they'll always say yes. I heard a lovely story. I was having dinner with a politician friend of mine and his lovely wife and daughter. And during the evening, she said to me, just jokingly, of course, she said, "You know, Peter, I used to believe my husband when he said to me how much he loved me and all that sort of thing. But since he became a politician, I no longer believe a word he says." So the point is, you will not often hear politicians say, "No, I can't do it," or "I won't do it," or "You can't have it," or "No, we won't give you a new bridge or a new dam or something." They'll always say yes. So it's the bureaucrats we have to reach. The heads of tourism departments, the heads of...
But you're not a politician, are you? You're not a politician, are you?
I'm trying to stay away from political issues.
Go on, sorry. Go on.
So that was just a point, because I have discovered it many times that the people who we have to, I mean, the frustration for me is, who do I turn to? Who can make things happen? We don't have a framework for this private-public participation. We have words for it, but we don't have a framework. I mean, the tourism industry, look at Lefteris sitting there, full of experience, full of knowledge about different markets in Africa, very embedded in certain markets like Kenya. I mean, nobody's using that brain of his on the policy side, on the government side. And all of us, I keep telling the government, you hire consultants to come up with a slogan for Tanzania. You have out there in the industry thousands of very experienced people, but you never harness it. You never talk to them. Our tourist board doesn't do it. Our Ministry of Tourism doesn't do it. We tend to get slapped with things after the event. And then we have to say, "Hey, wait, hang on a minute. We can't do that, or we can't pay that new tax, or whatever. We need as I said, this kind of DMO process to work its way up from the bottom, where there's trust and there's we rely on one another, and that has to be with bureaucracy. Yes, of course, a politician, our local MP, we've already incorporated his office in our DMO in Mafia, and he has an invitation to join us in the as we move forward. So yes, we want everybody involved, but when it comes to action, we are going to need a real commitment to the private-public sector participatory approach. Otherwise, we ain't going to get nowhere.
Guys, it's for the good of everybody. It's not just the good for the hoteliers. It's not just the good for the industry. It's good for the country, because the industry will bring money in the country, provided they use the money correctly. It's for everybody's good.
Well, we have a slogan in Mafia: "What's good for Mafia is good for me." And if we work on that base, if we work on that basis in any destination, you think about it. If it's good for Hawaii, it's good for Jürgen. If it ain't good for Hawaii, it's not good for anybody. That's so, you know, we need to keep the selfishness out of the industry. Jürgen, thank you so much. I think we've run out of time.
No, it was a different type of discussion. I liked it, and I think we should continue these discussions. And it fits exactly into our concept we'll be introducing tomorrow for those that are joining us and listening and watching us live. Tomorrow is our official launch. Please join us. And in 2 days, we have on the 10th, we have our keynote discussion with the candidate for UNWTO Secretary General from Bahrain. And we have many, many other sessions coming up. And I think what we discussed today would be ideal for an interest group, maybe our green interest group, to continue these discussions also on an ongoing basis. I also liked your sentence, Peter, to introduce projects from the bottom up, and that's really what we want to do. We don't want to start an organization what rules from the top down. And that's why we're keen to get chapters. And I think with an organization in place, we can give these chapters more weight in a political sense. But anyways, Peter, thank you so much for this presentation. It was wonderful. Lefteritz, Cuthbert, and Stephen from New York, who's always joining us, and it's 3 in the morning, or 2 at 10 in the morning. And Kazim, I don't know, Kazim, you're from Nigeria, so it's late time where you are.
Nigeria is from the media. It's from Calo Africa Media.
Yes. No, I know who he is now. Okay, we know. I've been on your show. Thank you so much, and everyone, and thank you for tuning in. And again, if you're a member of WTN or a member of the African Tourism Board, and you have a presentation you'd like to go forward during our launch month for WTN in December, just go to WTN.travel and click on the event, and you can propose this. Other than that, thank you, and thank you for those reading eTurbo News, for watching us. And we hope we see you again soon, maybe tomorrow. We have one more session coming up for those live in about 34 minutes from now. And we're going to hear from Zimbabwe. So we're going to stay in Africa. And we have a presentation coming up on Zimbabwe tourism in about at 9:45 my time in Hawaii, but would be 9:45 also South African and Zimbabwe time, I believe. Anyways, thank you very much, everyone, and we'll see you soon.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Pleasure to meet all of you. Bye.